franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion with Dr. Laurie Betito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Welcome to Passion, a show all about love, sex, and relationships. Tonight, it is our regular monthly feature we call Dating Dilemmas. I am joined by Frank Kermit, who is a dating coach of franktalks.com. He is a best-selling author. He's an educator and a relationship columnist for the West End Times newspaper. Many of you have gone to his free weekly relationship workshops every Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m. And tonight, we're specifically talking about red flags in relationships. Frank, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie.
I just want to read a letter because it concerns you. Don't say, uh-oh. Don't worry. It's all good. Dear Dr. Laurie, my name is Demetra. I am one of your faithful fans who listens to your daily radio program. Needless to say how much we missed you during the 2 weeks of your vacation. Thank you. You know what? I have to say, I'm so touched, really. I didn't think that... I was really touched by the emails that I've been getting about where am I, and worried that I'm suddenly off the air. And, because I've never taken... In 13 years, I don't think I've ever taken a full 2-week vacation away from the show. So thank you. That's it's very touching. Fortunately, however, Demetra writes, Frank filled some of the gap. I find him very interesting and knowledgeable. His courses, workshops can help young and old, being or having been in a relationship. You can find answers to your questions. I personally go every Saturday to Frank's lessons, and I strongly recommend those lessons to everyone. Thanks, Dr. Laurie. Thanks, Frank. Isn't that nice?
Very nice. Thank you, Demetra.
That's so sweet. It's always so nice to get feedback, because sometimes we don't know how we impact people, or we hope we impact people. We hope we direct them in proper directions and that they get something from the education that we give them. I mean, both of us as educators, that's our goal, right? Is that we want to change the course of things. We want to help people achieve their potential.
We want to make the world a better place. And I think that people on the receiving end of our information and our help always assume that, wow, I find this person really great. I'm sure other people do. Yeah, they already know. They already know that they're good. Other people are going to tell them I don't have to.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we don't always know. We don't always get the feedback. I can tell you that your name did come up a number of times during the weekly relationship workshops.
Oh.
People asking me, what happened to Dr. Laurie?
I'm back. I'm here. Just a vacation. Just a break. That's it. No, but it is nice to get feedback like that. So, okay, we're going to talk about red flags, and we'll say what that means. But let me ask the audience some questions, basically. Do you keep dating the wrong people? Are you trying to figure out how to tell if it's not even worth, a second date or a third date? Do you only clearly see the red flags that someone gave off after you've already broken up with him or her? And what are the biggest red flags that you have spotted that made you not date someone? And sometimes they're non-negotiable. Sometimes they're very in-your-face obvious things. But sometimes they're not so obvious, because the first few months of a relationship, the honeymoon phase of a relationship, we tend to ignore a lot of the red flags that we see.
Sure, people are even afraid to acknowledge red flags. If they acknowledge the red flag, it means they might not be willing to give that person a chance. And it's very scary for some people to assert their boundaries. What's worse is that there are people out there who don't even know what the red flags are, or they really don't even know themselves to know that what's happening is a red flag.
So I guess we're going to try to help people figure that out right now, because some people listening might think red flag, what the hell's a red flag? So let's talk about what that is first.
Okay, a red flag, it's a sign, a symbol, a signal that you're interpreting as you're getting to know someone. It's an indicator that you should not get romantically involved with that person. Okay, now there's a couple of different types of red flags. There's the universal red flag.
Like?
Somebody who needs to drink alcohol or do recreational drugs just to be able to go to a social event, just to be able to have intimacy. This is a universal red flag. It's something that it's just a bad idea, it's a bad sign, regardless of the nature of your relationship, regardless of what your background is. And then we have personal red flags. A personal red flag is when you have a very specific boundary in your life. That doesn't necessarily mean that the person you're dating is wrong or bad. It's just that you already know yourself, you know what kind of future you want for yourself, and somebody might exhibit something that you're really just not that into and you don't want for a future. A red flag could be for that, a personal red flag. For whatever reason, you want a future that has no smoking in it, and the person that you're dating is a social smoker. That is a red flag. That should tell you,
For you.
for you specifically, it's a personal red flag. That should tell you, well, I shouldn't get into a exclusive, committed relationship with someone like that because they're already doing something that I don't want in my future. And if that's my boundary, I have to respect that.
I have an example of that. I remember, you're making me think now of all these red flags, all the dates I had, like before I got married, and how come they didn't go anywhere, and there was one person we were talking about. He was asking questions about my job, and at the time I was working with gender dysphoric patients, like transsexuals and what have you, and he just made the most judgmental comment that just, I literally, I looked at him and I said, and it was quite crass, it was more than judgment, it was like racist. Except that towards transgender people. It was very biased. And I just got up. I said, this date's over. This is too big. This is, to me, that was my personal boundary. The fact, being with someone who's that judgmental about what they don't know was a complete, red flag to me.
That's actually a universal red flag.
Oh, is it?
Anytime somebody feels the need to put other people down, it's a behavior pattern that can be redirected to anyone and anything.
Right, that's true.
Somebody who's already in the repeating behavior pattern of hating any group will eventually turn that behavior on their partner when they're not happy.
Right. Well, there's the potential for that, obviously. It may not happen at the beginning of the relationship, but later on, for sure.
You know the saying on the internet, a hater is going to hate? Well, the whole reason they say that is because a hater is already in the repeating behavior pattern of finding reasons to hate.
Right.
And it's just a matter of time before something clicks, they get angry, they get upset, and they can turn that same behavior on you.
Right. It's the blame game. More dating dilemmas, and of course you can contribute to the program. We're talking about red flags in dating tonight here on Passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight with Frank Kermit in studio with me, dating coach. He's an educator and also journalist, contributor to the West End Times. He does their relationship column. And if you would like to join in, I'd love to hear what some of the red flags that you have noticed, and what some of them, the red flags that have made you run like the wind, far away from the person in front of you. And I'm sure we've all had moments like that. I know myself, I've had moments. Frank, maybe you could talk about some of your moments like that, but some of them are, much more obvious. I remember once dating somebody, and he was talking about his mother in such a vile fashion that right away, that especially being a psychologist, said, oh my God, if this guy has such a horrible relationship with his mother, what must his view of women be, or his view of marriage be, or what, or how will that play out? And that scared that, bejesus out of me. Just like, I'm running away from this. This is not for me, just in case. Even though he's a nice guy and, everything else that was a big red flag for me.
You've actually just identified 2 universal red flags.
More universal, okay.
2 universal. The first one, if they're constantly disparaging people, whether it's an ex, whether it's, in this case, the guy's mother. Anytime you go on a date and you spend most of your time disparaging someone, that's a red flag. Because the whole point of a date is to find out where you fit in someone else's life and where that person fits in your life. And going on about who you hate, it's a red flag. Because if that's on the first and foremost on your mind when you're on a date, walk away.
Right. But you know what? I don't even know if it was first and foremost the topic of conversation. I think I was doing the kind of the grilling a little bit, the interviewing. For me, dating was a little like interviewing to see whether it was even worth, following up. And just when asking, basic questions about how's your, your family, what are your relationships like, and what have you, that's when it kind of came up. And it was like so, there was such a strong reaction that scared me, just that strong reaction.
Well, here's what I'm looking at. It's a first date or two, I imagine, when this happened. You really didn't earn that kind of intimate information from him. Usually, if somebody has that kind of past that they need to share, the best thing to say on a first date is, well, I don't really get along with certain members of my family, but when we get to know each other better, I'll share more with you. Right now, I'd rather not talk about it. That's a lot more calibrated. Because the fact is, he doesn't know if he can trust you with that information.
Right.
And that's a real bad sign on
So that
part.
might be a red flag right there.
Well, any time that you are committing to somebody more than that person has earned, that's a red flag. And sharing such personal information with somebody you've just met that hasn't earned it. Okay, let's be very clear. If your date had been, this was the 3rd date and you had seen each other so much and you'd already shared everything else, okay, at that point maybe he knew that he could trust you with this kind of information. But if you don't know if you can trust somebody with information and you share it anyway, red flag.
So what if somebody shares a lot? Would it be a red flag for somebody who just kind of spills their guts on the first date and tells you absolutely everything there is, gives you all their issues, spells them all out?
It's the context of it. If they're telling you along the lines of, look, I really like where this is going, so I'm going to tell you something that you need to know in order to decide if you want to go out with me.
I've heard,
That's a good thing.
Okay.
Because what they're saying is, I've made the decision that I like you, but I'm going to give you the information you need to know so that if we're going to continue with this, you're more than aware. That's respectable.
Okay.
But simply going right into it and saying, yeah, well, this is what I do, that's what I do, that's what I do, that's what I do, slow it down, back it up.
And learn about the other person too, right?
Just find out if they can handle that kind of information, because they might not be able to. And if you can figure out ahead of time, this is not someone I should share that information with, that's calibrated.
Just another red flag that I just thought of, because I talk to people who go on dates and they tell me these stories. But this couple, they went on their first date and the guy only talked about himself. After the date, he still didn't know anything about her, didn't know how old she was, didn't know if she'd been married before. Just talked about himself.
Self-absorbed. Is not actually interested in finding out where you fit into his life. Is just interested in trying to brag his way into her pants. Is that it?
Well, I don't think it was that. I think it was more about trying to sell oneself. It's like, you got to like me, so here's everything there's. But, you miss the point of the whole dating
Well, there's
kind
a lack
of
of
exchange.
connection there. There's a lack of connection.
Right, there's no connection, exactly.
One of the things that I teach people at my workshop and in my practice is that you don't go on a date to have fun. And you don't go on a date to automatically decide someone is going to be your soulmate and try to sell yourself. You're actually there to see what role they can play in your life. And they should be trying to figure out what role you can play in their life.
That's when you're dating with the purpose of...
Any purpose. Even if all you're looking for is a one-night stand, you still have to figure out on a date and by asking questions to see if the person you're with would even qualify for your one-night stand category, and if you would qualify for theirs.
Here's a good question. When can I tell her I'm Spider-Man? And we can take that and say, when can I tell her fill in the blank. Like there's a lot of things, when can I tell her I'm a spy? When can I tell her I work for this? When can I tell, which I find very interesting. We'll get back to that. Actually, I want to answer that. You may not be Spider-Man, but maybe you're something else.
Well, I can answer that. When are you going to tell you're Spider-Man if you really love her? You wouldn't tell her you're Spider-Man because that puts her at risk knowing your secret identity.
Ah, good one. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas here on Passion. You can join us at 514-790-0991 or text us at 514-800. I'm Dr. Laurie Betito, and this is Passion on CJAD 800.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching is available in person, by phone, and by Skype for singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles. franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Tonight it's Dating Dilemmas. Frank Kermit joins me as he does every month. He's a dating coach, relationship. He writes a relationship column for the West End Times. He's an educator, and he holds every Saturday night free workshops for you, our listener, for the public, all about relationships, understanding dating, every topic that really relates to singlehood. We got an interesting text message. No example really, but a red flag for me is any indication of mental imbalance. I have no problem with baggage as long as they have dealt with it and I'm not being dragged into their problems. Good topic tonight. Absolutely. That everybody has some baggage.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I think it's very unrealistic to look for someone with no baggage.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
That's right.
One of the ways to not get dragged into it is to not be their therapist and to be their partner.
Right.
And you start this by saying, when you're listening to someone's problems, first of all, you don't listen to people's problems on the first few dates. That's not why you're there. That's not why the other person is there. And if somebody starts reciting their problems, the really serious ones, the answer to give them is this. You put your hand up, making it like the stop sign, and you say, stop. I'm not your therapist. When you're with me, we have fun. And point to yourself when you say, we have fun. And go do something fun.
Right.
That's how you stay out of the therapist role.
That will drag you down. If the conversations are all, if you're really trying to always build up the other person because they're talking about their issues.
Well, if the person needs a therapist, they need to seek out competent therapy. Okay? They don't get that from their life partner, and that is another red flag. When they're looking for their partner or future partner to solve their problems.
Right.
That's not the job of a future partner. Your future partner is there to be your partner, not your therapist.
Right.
Not you. There's a difference between offering support to build a life together and offering the kind of support that they really should be seeing a professional therapist
Right.
for.
Sometimes there's a fine line because, especially women tend to be nurturers and men tend to be the problem solvers. So when men see a female in distress somehow, they go into strategies and, they go into let me fix it mode. And women go into let me take care of you, let me nurture you with this. So sometimes, just our natural instinct can get in the way and it could kind of go the extreme.
This is really challenging for very nice people as well, the people pleasers. They want to be nice, they want to be caring, they want to be good people. That's fine. But when you're on a date, you're looking for a partner. You're not looking for a patient.
Yeah.
And you should also know that for some people, once they enter the therapist role, they can never enter the partner role because they lose attraction for the person they're with.
The person who's being the quasi-therapist here is
Yeah.
losing attraction for the
Yeah.
person they're with.
So I hear it a lot where a guy is going to tell me, why am I in the friend zone? Why does she only want to be friends with me and not my girlfriend? And we'll talk, and it turns out that, well, dude, she's like your mother. She's constantly listening to your problems.
Right.
So she's getting
That's
turned
true.
off.
That's true.
The mothering instinct kicks in. She doesn't feel like being your lover.
That's exactly it. When the mothering instinct kicks in with a partner, that turns off the romance. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works. On the other side of the news, we continue dating dilemmas and discussing red flags here on CJAD.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, well, my buddy Frank here has got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's, 'cause he knows what you are going through. 'Cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. To franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight. Once a month, Frank Kermit joins me on the air. He is a franktalks.com. He's a dating coach. He's a best-selling author. He's an educator, relationship columnist for the West End Times newspaper. Plus, he conducts weekly free workshops, relationship workshops, every Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m. You can reach him by email, frank@franktalks.com. He also does private coaching, etc. 514-790-0991, Star Talk, star 8255 on your Bell Mobility cell phone, or text at 514-800. Tonight we're talking about red flags, things you should be looking for when you're on a date, things that should really scream out at you, basically, that, uh-oh, this might be trouble, this is not something you want to pursue, and I urge you, listen to that little voice inside your head that is saying to you, watch out. Uh-oh. Sometimes we tend to push it away. Like that gut feeling we have, we question, oh, no, was that really, like you start to question yourself about your gut feeling. Then you eventually later you realize, I should have gone with my gut feeling. Our guts are good. They will tell us things.
They can be. However, if every person you have ever dated has exhibited the same problem, that's when you know you cannot trust your gut. So when I have somebody coming to me saying, every person I've ever dated has cheated on me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, if every single person you've dated has cheated on you, there's a common element in every relationship you've been in.
Well, you're the common element, but you're making that choice. Why you have to ask yourself, why am I choosing these particular kinds of men, and what are the red flags I don't see?
Exactly.
So, but you may not even be in tune with your gut at that point.
And that's the
Okay.
thing. How everybody says, okay, you can trust your gut. Sometimes if your gut is saying, that's the person I should end up dating, that's the person I choose. Well, if every person that you've chosen is turned out to be a bad choice, then you cannot trust your gut. And this is what I went through during my development.
Can I give a concrete example of something like that?
Please do.
It's not really related to dating, but it's about trusting yourself sometimes. I have a very bad sense of direction. So every time I need to go in one direction, I always go the wrong way. So then I can't trust myself. So I say, okay, listen to your gut. Okay, go that way. And then every time I go left, I'm really meant to go right. So then I say, well, I better switch it around now. So now I'm questioning if my gut tells me to go left, I actually go right. Mm-hmm. Even though my gut's telling me one. So there's an example where your gut could be completely off.
And believe it or not, that same practice is how you start dating better people when you're trying to get better at relationships. If your gut is screaming, that's the person I should be going after, that's the red flag.
Okay.
Your own gut that says go, go, go actually now becomes the warning.
Okay.
And after you
very
date people
interesting.
who are more emotionally healthy for you, you get used to those behaviors. And, this is my own belief. I think you pick up on a new vibe. And once you pick up on that vibe, that's when you can vibe your way through and then be able to pick out the people that you would have a better
It
relationship
can become
with.
your new norm, too, because if all you've known is one thing, you keep being attracted to the same thing because it's familiar. But if you
Exactly.
change what's familiar and get used to something else,
Then that new thing becomes a familiar in time.
right,
And this is part of why you need more experience with dating.
right, which isn't a bad thing. Go out and date.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, I mean, look, in dating, a lot of women have told me this, a lot of guys too, that they date, but they find that the people they date lie a lot.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know who they're getting really in front of them, especially with internet dating and online profiles, and people are lying left, right, and center.
Look, you're not responsible when someone lies to you. Okay? Let's make that clear. You don't take the responsibility of saying, that person lied to me, so I'm obviously not very smart. However, there might have been red flags there that you missed. And if you have missed the obvious ones, this is where you need to work on yourself. So, I got a wonderful story here. A woman comes to me and she says, this guy that I've been seeing has been two-timing me. He wasn't only dating me, he was dating somebody else. And we continue talking. And, here's the detail that really struck it for me. The guy she was dating was a priest.
Oy. Like
And
a Catholic priest
he
who's
was a
supposed to be
Catholic-
celibate priest?
That's right.
Okay.
And she explains to me, well, he was telling me that he wasn't sure about what he wanted to do. He was thinking about leaving the priesthood. I was dating him, but he was dating some other girl at the same time. And I said, don't you get it? If the guy is willing to cheat on his God, what makes you think he's going to be faithful to you?
Right.
There's the red flag right there, that
Right.
it's the repeating behavior pattern. When you start off as the other person, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, to think that it's not going to happen to you, come on, it's a red flag.
Right. It is definitely a red flag. Hi, Carol. Welcome to the program.
Hey, welcome back, Laurie.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Laurie, excuse me, Dr. Laurie, and Mr. Kermit.
Hello.
Love to hear you. A red flag is an inner voice also. It's a sign, but sometimes it's silent, in the sense that it's not obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You feel something, it could save your life, because many years back I had a blind date. There was nothing wrong physically with a gentleman. He was good looking, but his eyes, there was something I didn't like.
Mm.
And a month after, I discovered that he killed a woman. I saw that in the newspaper. I
No.
said, shucks, that's the guy I saw, I swear,
Wow.
Wow.
A month after, his face was in the Allo Police. He had killed a woman. That could have been me.
That could have been you. Wow. And you
So-
saw something in his eyes and it gave you the creeps. There was
Yeah.
something that gave you that feeling like something's not quite right here.
Exactly, and even a hockey game, it was not a date, but I was sitting in a row seat. I went to see some friend playing in the arena. I said, I'm going to change the rows of seat. I don't like, for some reason I changed. I went 2 rows up. The guy that took my place had the puck in the face, splattered on his face. I would have been dead. That was a big guy.
Wow.
Somebody's watching over you, Carol, too.
You've got an
sure.
amazing instinct. Your
Hey, God
instinct
bless
is...
you all.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Carol. Thanks for calling. Wow, that kind of gives me the goosebumps, that kind of thing.
There's a book called The Gift of Fear. Mm-hmm. Don't remember the name of the author. His first name was Gavin, I believe. Somebody could call in or text in with the name of that author. The Gift of Fear, he talks exactly about this. That every single one of us is born with the fear instinct that is supposed to help us survive and keep us alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we are one of the only species that doesn't listen to that instinct.
Isn't that interesting?
We are one of the only ones.
Wow. Somebody else texting, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Wake up, ladies.
Wow. But listen, I know we're picking on the guys here, but the fact is,
It's not just guys. I hear plenty
guys.
of, guys talking about the red flags of their days. Give us some example of female red flags coming from the other end.
Coming from the other end, large gaps of time missing. This can apply to both men and women, where you really are trying to reach somebody, but they're always busy. They're never really around when you need them. And it's not a matter of them saying, listen, we're only going to see each other casually. It's that even when you're trying to reach them, they're just completely absent. Usually it's a sign that they're seeing other people or married. Other red flags, this is what I get from a lot of guys, is that the women constantly ask them questions about their material possessions, or where they vacation, asking even questions like, well, what's your favorite type of car? Never mind the car you're driving now. What's your favorite type? And if he says a car that he really likes as opposed to one of the more expensive ones, she'll turn around and say, well, why don't you like this other type of car? And it's women who basically are looking for a sugar daddy.
Or value the material aspect of it more than anything, and that's not what they're looking for.
And another big red flag for men and women is gender hate.
Gender hate. Okay.
Well, the idea is that when somebody talks about the opposite gender in a very negative fashion,
so misogynists or
misogyny. And here's the thing, though, that when you replace the genders in any gender hate story, that's when you understand what makes it so wrong. So you can have a bunch of women together and they're all laughing about some sort of, talking about the Bobbit story, chopping off of the penis and so on. If you were to replace the gender in that story and have everybody laughing and giggling about female circumcision, which is a very barbaric practice, and then you say, well, no, that's not even funny. That's not something we should be laughing at. That's what's wrong with gender hate. The idea that there's a double standard where it's okay to hate on one gender and not the other. If you're hating on a gender, it's a red flag.
Sometimes you're just making fun. It's not like, we get together a bunch of girls, and sometimes all our husbands are doing the same stupid thing. They're whatever. It could be that they don't see, they all have covered blindness or whatever. We're just all laughing about. We still all love our partners, but we're not hating on the gender.
Whatever it is that you're saying, if you reverse the genders, and if it was the husbands talking about the wives on the same thing, if it gets a different type of reaction, then you have to identify.
Okay, so if it's the reaction that we're talking about. Because I'm sure they, make fun of their nagging wives too, but so what?
Listen, I agree that husbands and wives make fun of each other, but we're talking about when people say, we see this posted on Facebook a lot, men are all like this and women are all like this. Well, when you start looking at somebody who's constantly posting that, okay, it stops being a joke. Now that person is really saying that they have a problem with men in general, they have a problem with women in general. And if these people happen to be in professions like dating industry, you got to start watching out for that really big red flag.
All right. More dating dilemmas coming right up here on Passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching is available in person, by phone, and by Skype for singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles. www.franktalks.com.
franktalks.com. 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 franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. Frank Kermit is in studio. We're talking about red flags. One text message. Wow, everything you have discussed are the reasons I stopped dating after my divorce.
You know what? That means that you just have to learn how to choose better partners.
Yeah, I think that's important. Let's go straight to our phone lines. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the program.
Hello, you two.
Hi.
I missed you for 2 weeks.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you.
Oh, gosh. I wanted to say there's two big red flags for me. When a man speaks about his former girlfriend or wife and calls her crazy, then I know I'm with a crazy, because what kind of man would speak that way about a woman, particularly if it's, the mother of his children? And when Frank was talking about sugar daddy, well, you can turn that around. When a man insists on paying for everything and goes to the point of saying, you don't need to work, you don't need to go to school,
Yeesh. Yeah, that would be that would be a red flag for me.
That would be one controlling person.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, I just want you at home making babies. That's okay. That's enough.
Yeah, you'll never escape.
Yeah, well, no, you're right. But for some women that may work and may not be a red flag, but I don't know, I guess for women like me and you, Karen, that would really be a big red flag.
I just don't understand why those women looking for sugar daddies don't get those sugar daddies.
Yeah, that's also an interesting thing. How come they're not how come they don't match up?
Yeah.
That's true. Karen, thanks so much for calling in.
Okay.
All right, bye. 514-790-0991. You still have a bit of time to call in. You can also text us at 514-800.
Karen was talking about exes. There's only one way to positively talk about an ex on a date. You have to talk about what you learned from that relationship.
Right.
No disparaging remarks, because the fact is, who you've dated is a reflection of who you've chosen. And if you've chosen poorly, that's a reflection on you.
Right. Right. So then you need to learn why you chose that and why you wouldn't choose that again, for example, or what you learned from those choices that you made.
Right. And if you're going to talk about an ex, you have to talk about your ex in terms of, well, I did date somebody for a certain period of time. Here's what I learned about myself. That's attractive. That's calibrated. And that is the opposite of a red flag.
Yeah. And that sounds like somebody else wrote us about, emotional imbalance. That sounds balanced. Like someone who's done the work, where they wouldn't be dragging you into all of that crap.
Well, that's the work I went through with my own personal development, to realize that I was the common element in every relationship I was in. Even at my best, I'm still only 50% of a relationship.
Right.
The other 50% is a person's ability to choose the right partner. It's not even the other partner.
Right. And I think people really need to think, if they keep getting themselves into bad dating situations over and over again, it's not luck. No. This is not bad luck. This is what you're choosing. So you really have to take a close look at yourself.
I think an important point is that you don't choose who you have feelings for, but you do choose who you're going to act on those feelings with.
Right.
So if you're going to say, yeah, but I can't help it, that's who I fall in love with, that's okay. It's okay to feel something for someone that's not good for you. It's not okay to knowingly choose to date that person just because of how you feel.
Yeah.
And if that is your repeating behavior pattern, if that is your gut instinct, then you know what you need to do. You got to start dating people who you're not necessarily attracted to right away, so that you can build up that instinct. You can build up that intuition to get attracted to the people who will treat you well.
You know what's interesting? I've spoken to a few people who were always attracted to a particular type, and it just so happened that the type ended up not being good for them. Then they went into therapy and really worked on themselves to see what was why was I attracted to this type? What is it about my past, my own patterns that led me there? And once they did the work, and this is true of so many people I know, men and women alike, it's when they did the work, they ended up getting into wonderful relationships with people who were not at all their types. At all their types. Nothing they were attracted to before. Had they met that person, years prior, they wouldn't even looked at them twice.
Exactly.
But yet, it's amazing. And these people are all in wonderful, solid, healthy relationships.
It's about emotional health. It's about finding someone that you're emotionally compatible with and that meets your emotional needs. But if your emotional needs are such that you only respond to someone that you can only have an unhealthy dynamic in, that's where you got to say, whoa, slow down, let's figure this out, because life is short. Let's enjoy the rest of it.
Yeah, let's not make it so complicated when we could be happy in our relationships. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas here. If you've got questions, we're talking about red flags on dates. What should you be looking for to make you question whether you should even be pursuing, this dating relationship? 514-790-0991 or text at 514-800. I'm Dr. Laurie, and this is Passion on CJAD 800.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas. Frank Kermit is in studio, franktalks.com. Don't forget his weekly workshops every Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m. They're relationship workshops for singles, for people in relationships, to help you understand your choices better, to help you understand how you can meet people easier, all of that stuff. So if you want information, go to franktalks.com, or you can email Frank at franktalks.com. Now, Frank talked about a book called The Gift of Fear, and thank you to one of our listeners who did write in with the name of the author of the book, and his name is Gavin DeBecker, Debekker. So that's one of Frank's recommendation, The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. Thanks. That sounds like it's a very interesting read. Haven't read it.
It is an interesting read, and I just find it phenomenal. It also teaches people how to deal with someone trying to intimidate them or trying to extort them, and we can apply this to dating as well.
And business and life in general, yeah.
I mean, go out with me, or I'm going to tell everybody this secret about you, and this type of thing.
Well, that's a really big red flag.
Well, any use of intimidation or threats generally is a red flag. How they treat animals is another red flag.
Okay.
Because if they mistreat animals, it's only a matter of time before they mistreat people. So look for somebody who, let's say...
Yeah, that we know is a sign. Like, when you look at killers and they torture animals and they start to move on to humans, What else? How do we spot, spot sex offenders? Or it's so hard because you can't, they could be, they walk around our midst. Like, you don't...
You can't necessarily pick out somebody who's going to be bad. You would pick somebody out, though, who maybe wouldn't match up with your own personal boundaries, and you start with that.
Okay.
Other types of red flags are people with shifting boundaries. They'll tell you that they're not going to do something, and then they go ahead and do it. They tell you that they're not comfortable with something one day, and the next day they are comfortable with it.
Yeah, or another red flag someone was talking to me about this week is a guy who's extremely pushy sexually. Who's insisting and very insistent about things, so who's not respecting sexual boundaries or just not having that respect for the other person by imposing on them and telling them, all guys all guys want this, or all women do this for guys, and kind of basically lying to be able to get their needs met.
Well, the use of shame and guilt is always a sign of an emotional blackmailer, an emotional abuser.
Yeah. Big red flag. That's it, Frank. Boy, the time goes fast, fast, fast.
Yeah, it does. A little too fast for my liking.
Well, you can catch Frank Saturday nights. Just go to his lectures in NDG, 7 to 9 p.m. Just check on his website.
If you need help with your relationships, well, my buddy Frank here has got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's, 'cause he knows what you are going through. Frank has been there too, so log on to franktalks.com, to franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too, so log on to franktalks.com, franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
franktalks.com. franktalks.com. franktalks.com. franktalks.com.